I'm Sonia Azad. Welcome to The Shift. Real connection, healthy conversation as we navigate life's changes and challenges together. Thanks to our friends at CryoCon for making this podcast possible. Hair and makeup generously provided by Glam House Collective. Thanks for joining us here on The Shift. I'm Sonia Azad, and we've got a great interview for you today. I am joined by entrepreneur, founder of Bulletproof 360, four-time New York Times bestselling author, and the father of biohacking, Dave Asprey. Thank you so much for your time today, Dave.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, so I want to start by asking you a little bit more about yourself, your background. This podcast is called The Shift. So we talk about healthy ways to navigate major shifts in life. So for those of you who may not know the background or the backstory, what major shift led you down this path of wellness and ultimately biohacking?
Well, I used to weigh 300 pounds, and this was in my early 20s. I went to the gym 6 days a week, 90 minutes a day. I had profound brain fog, chronic fatigue syndrome, arthritis since I was 14, been on antibiotics every month for 15 years for strep throat, and my health was a wreck and my career was taking off in a big way, and I realized I couldn't remember anything. It was actually kind of scary. I did all the things you're supposed to do, low fat, low calorie diet. I tried being a vegan. I worked my ass off all the time in the gym. Nothing worked. And I just kept getting worse. Like the pedal is pressed to the floor and you're slowing down. And like, what do you do? There's nothing left. And that's what caused me to have to make the shift.
So I've heard, and we can say anything we want because this is a podcast. I've heard you basically have to get so sick of your own shit that that's kind of what makes or creates the shift. Is that sort of what you're describing?
Hitting rock bottom or like a feeling of absolute helplessness, like I can't do anymore. Sometimes that's what it takes. I've found that a lot of people make the shift just through inspiration. So if you see someone who maybe did hit rock bottom and you're like, I don't want to go there, it's possible to make the shift just by learning. Oh, it's not that hard. We have all these weird stories about having to starve yourself and go on long runs every day and just all these weird drinking green smoothies and eating bowls of sticks and whatever. I tried all that. It's not supposed to be hard. It's not supposed to take willpower. And if that lands, you can make the shift without having to really get sick.
So I mentioned this, you're called sort of the father of biohacking. I don't know how you feel about that title, but I had to ask you, of all people, what is biohacking? And by the way, I saw the video you posted about the Kardashians answering that question. It was quite funny.
Well, I'm fine with the title. Biohacking was a very conscious word. I was in Tibet in a remote part of the world, spending months studying with gurus and masters. And I was like, how do I make the longevity things that I'm doing? I'm learning from people 3 times my age. I've restored my brain. I've lost the weight. How do I make this so I would have paid attention when I was 20 years old? And biohacking was the word. So I came back to the States and I started sending tweets back at the time when that's what they were and posting about it. And I started this whole blog about all the things you can do for your brain, for your body, for longevity. And the definition, it took like 6 weeks and I made this infographic and I started the first conference on biohacking. So I really did single-handedly come up with this and started the movement online and moved it into a real event. And the definition is the art and science of changing the environment around you and inside of you so you have control of your biology. And this lets old people become young. It lets young people become powerful. It lets fat people become lean. It lets tired people become energetic. So the goals may be different. The techniques around controlling your environment, controlling your inner state, those are the common thing. It works for men. It works for women. Sometimes you change variables, but it's for all of us at any age. And it allowed neuroscientists and bodybuilders and longevity people to come together and say, what can we do together? Like, what are the cross-pollination things? How do we bring functional medicine, longevity doctors into this? And in 2016, Webster's added the word to the English language, and my name is in the online definition. And that's why people call me the father of biohacking.
So I had an opportunity to speak with Griff Long about Upgrade Labs, and it was a great conversation. I love so much about what's being done there. I'm a yoga and meditation teacher. I've been sort of doing this for 20 years plus. So I am involved in the recovery space as well. I'm wondering, it's something I asked Griff, are people leaning into recovery more and more these days? Are people leaning into biohacking? Are they trying to do it to better themselves, or is it an anti-aging thing? Is it a vanity thing? Like, where is this drawing people in?
Upgrade Labs is the world's first biohacking center. I opened it around 2014 underneath Arnold Schwarzenegger's office in Santa Monica. And the idea was all these crazy tools of biohacking that most people don't even know exist. Maybe a few Navy SEALs have them, or astronauts, or pro athletes. What if everyone had access? I put them together in my barn on Vancouver Island on my regenerative farm. So I got to make it so these are accessible. And since then, it has inspired thousands of people to say, oh, maybe we should pay attention to recovery and to open things. And today, Upgrade Labs is a thriving franchise. We've got 30 locations signed, and Griff is president. And the thesis has always been here that you care about your state, but you are not the same as everyone else. What's different about Upgrade Labs is people come in and we actually ask you questions, structured questions with AI to help tease out what is really most important for you. Because if I were to ask you, do you want to be healthy? Everyone goes, yeah. But what does it mean? And most people don't even know. So maybe for you, healthy means I have a longevity strategy and I reverse my aging. And maybe for someone else, it's I want my brain to work again. And for someone else, I got to lose the fat, or I need to manage my stress better. So they're very different goals, but the same tool set. So based on your goals, we create a hyper-personalized prescription on how to use all the technologies that are available at Upgrade Labs. And we're gathering up to 187 million data points per member per year. So you don't have to believe that the recovery stack that we're recommending works for you. It'll show up in your numbers. And if it doesn't, we'll change it until you get the results you want. So different people with different biology have different goals, and they need different interventions, and we have all of them. We figured out if you had to drive around to do all this stuff that's at Upgrade Labs, it's going to take about 350, maybe 400 hours a year and cost you a lot of money. Instead, it's all in one place. It's very time efficient. It's our job to use data. We will just tell you what to do to get your goals in the least possible effort and time. And recovery is at the center of this. 20% of the problem is I need more exercise. And 80% of the problem is my body wasn't recovered enough to benefit from exercise. So people come in not necessarily knowing they need recovery. They know they want results, and recovery is the path to results. And we're using tech to make that happen.
So I'm wondering what you would consider sort of the focal point or the barometer for being healthy. I mean, is there one thing that you can pinpoint? Because I know a lot of people who think they're healthy and then they're, for instance, diagnosed with cancer and they had no idea. So, and that's a whole other thing, right? Like what is going on? We could talk about that for a long time, right? But is there one kind of focal point where you go, if this, then that means, yes, you are healthy?
Your metabolic efficiency is the one thing that's likely to drive everything else. And that also includes how well you recover. And the problem is it's hard to get that data. For most of us who aren't coming into an Upgrade Labs and don't have access to a bunch of tech, you can get a ring. I have 2 different brands of rings on right now, or a sleeping monitor that will tell you your heart rate variability and your nightly recovery. If that's good, you're much less likely to have any disease, including cancer. It doesn't mean you won't have cancer, though. So for me, that's what I look at. And when people come into Upgrade Labs, in most states, we can send someone to your house to draw some blood and to get a basic blood panel to see what's going on with your metabolism and your hormones and your thyroid and things like that. And a lot of people don't want to do that. So you come in and we get about 4,000 data points using electricity, and we can measure the electrical health of your cell membranes. Cancer cells have unhealthy cell membranes. And if you have lots of inflammation in your body, or if your cells are dehydrated, or if your cells aren't working well electrically, well, we got to do something about that. And if we identify that when you come in, when you do your cell health analysis, it takes about 2 minutes, then we're going to point you to the things that increase the health of your cell membranes. And this is all about recovery.
you mentioned your regenerative farm and all of these things, including the 2 rings that you're wearing, which, okay, wait, let me ask you about this. Are the 2 kind of in sync all the time? Is that why you wear them, to make sure that, one is not maybe off or something?
I'm kind of a nerd. I was CTO of the first company to get heart rate from the wrist, the way your Apple Watch does today.
Yeah.
So I'm always wondering, like, what works? I was an early advisor to Aura, which is this ring, and I've got years of data. This is the Ultra Human ring. It's a different brand, and they give you different data. I think the Ultra Human actually has a richer data set than the Aura. So I like the Ultra Human because it's talking about, like, when is sunshine going to be beneficial for your sleep, and when is it beneficial but not for sleep, or what is your window for caffeine to have its most effect? So I get richer data from the Ultra Human, but it runs out of power more than my Aura, and so I don't mind wearing both.
Well, you called yourself a nerd. I'm a self-proclaimed nerd in this way too, because I geek out on all this stuff. I'm wondering, what is it like to be you? So what is your daily ritual for, share as much as you're comfortable with?
Sure.
Because you mentioned this regenerative farm, and I'm just like picturing, I have a lot of, myofascial release tools and all these toys and gadgets and stuff in my home, but that's not the case for most people. And maybe not of interest for a lot of people either. But what do you do to optimize your health on a daily basis?
Well, I'm not living on the farm right now, and living on a farm is a whole different life. It's an incredible amount of work. And it's also an incredible luxury because you get to eat all the food from your farm. So what I do now is I do my best to go to bed earlier. 10 is a pretty good time. And it's worth just saying, I was a 2 a.m. bedtime person my entire life. I could not go to bed earlier if I tried. And using biohacking, using the True Dark glasses, which is one of my companies, I was able to reset my circadian rhythm. I go to bed at a normal time for the first time in my life. It's actually really cool. And I wake up usually before my alarm clock. And if I don't wake up before my alarm clock, it's because I did something dumb, like eat my meal too late the night before, or I stayed up too late or something like that. And then I used to have this sort of rigid, I got to do this, I got to do that. I don't do any of that. So I wake up, I take the supplements that require an empty stomach. I wait 15 minutes. I have a cup of Danger coffee, and I usually go outside. And I live in Austin, where there's sunshine most of the year, which is critically important for your health and all sorts of reasons. And I usually go outside. Well, I have tall fences, so I go outside naked. I might as well. And there's a good chance that if I don't go into Upgrade Labs that day, that I will probably hop in my cold plunge or in the hot tub that I have or the infrared sauna. And my goal is I don't start my day until 10 a.m., my work day. And before that time, I am going to be doing thinking, I'm going to be doing research, and I'm going to do some kind of biohacking. And I have a full Upgrade Labs at my house of everything except for the walk-in cryo. And that means I have more gadgets than I do time. And most people are saying, well, I'm going to make habits. Habit. It doesn't work. So what you do is you say, this much time, do something every day to improve. And if I'm saying, I'm looking at my vision, I'll train my vision. Or I'm looking at my brain, I'll train my brain. Or I'm looking at muscles, I'll do that. The deal is, you don't have to do the same thing every day. In fact, it almost never works.
You not only affirmed, I also don't start my workday until 10 a.m. So thank you for that. I feel good about that now. And the fact that you don't have to do the same thing every day, I think that's a really important point. I think people are going, I have to meditate, I have to do the breath work, I have to do the cryo and the sauna and the red light and the, and then they're like, oh my gosh, I've got to also feed my kids and walk the dog and whatever else. So
it's too much. And
yeah,
most people, we have this very basic belief that is unchallenged. And it's that if something is good, I have to do a lot of it. But the data shows over and over that it's not how much work you do, it's how much results you get. So like, imagine you went to work and you're like, boss, I worked hard all day and I got one thing done. That's not as good as saying, boss, I worked hard all day and I got 3 things done. So was it the working hard or the getting things done? And when it comes to exercise, I wrote a major book on here's how to get cardio in 4% of the time with better results. Here's how to put on weights in far less time using AI. And my new book that's just coming out is called Heavily Meditated. And you're going to love this one because I go through all of the techniques, technologies, substances, and other weird things you can do that will put your body and brain into an altered state, whether it's a flow state for high performance or to be able to go in and actually edit your triggers and your settings. makes a really big difference.
I was just about to ask you about this new book. I have a shirt that says heavily meditated, so I'm already into this.
That's so cool.
It's described as the intersection of biohacking and consciousness. So tell me what that means to you.
People start biohacking because they want a result. Maybe I wanted to lose the weight, or I wanted to fix my gut, or I have brain fog, or there's something like that. But if you enter the path of biohacking, you're going to learn, oh, I have control of my state. And you will always end up with two goals. One is longevity, because now I have my energy. I want to live a long time. Like, I like my life. And number two is you want to be happy. And so you will end up saying, I want to become more conscious, more aware. I want to be kind, and I want to build the kind of life that I love. So you're going to start out saying, I wanted to put on muscle, and you end up saying, I'm going to live forever, or at least as long as I want. And I'm going to be happy and at peace. So just like there's exercise that works better in less time, there are things that work better than just meditating, things that accelerate meditation, or things that work better than meditation in some cases, or things that are like meditation. So I put all these down in a book based on 20 years of studying with gurus all over the planet, going to the jungle, going to the Himalayas, the Andes, and 10 years of working with neuroscience, measuring the brain states of high-performing human beings and working with them for 5 days at a time on learning how to enter altered states that allow profound inner reprogramming and inner healing. That's heavily meditated.
What is the, I guess, tallest hurdle or largest barrier getting people to get into a practice of meditation, let's just call it? I teach a lot of beginners, so I call myself kind of the gateway drug to all of these mindfulness practices. And absolutely, over time with consistency, people go, oh yeah, now I feel different. Now I'm behaving differently. Now everything is different. Now people are noticing that I'm different. Yeah. But it's that beginning, that's like the first step. It's so hard for people. And I feel like with the world spinning faster and faster and faster, it's not getting any easier. How would you suggest making it easier for people? Or does the book already suggest that to them?
Heavily meditated is definitely going to help because it explains where resistance comes from. Look, let's be honest. Your body has a mind of its own. If you've ever said, I'm not going to eat the cookie, and then you ate the cookie, you didn't decide to eat the cookie. Your body forced you to eat the cookie, and you probably blame yourself for it. Your body's been wired by 2 billion years of evolution to make sure that you don't expend any energy that you don't need to, and to make sure you eat as much as possible to make sure that you don't starve. It will give you those urges before you can think. And a lot of people feel this shame. Oh, I should want to go to the gym because my brain tells me that. And your body is not your brain. Your body says, you know what? There's a couch and cheesecake and Netflix. That is so hot. And it looks at the gym. It's like, that's worse than, going to the dump. Like, let's not go there. So the gym is going to feel icky. And the couch is going to feel good. And that is healthy and normal and natural. And there's nothing wrong with you if that's what your body wants. Just don't let your body think it's in charge. So you can drop the shame over not wanting to do the things that make you healthy. And you can say, well, what are the least effort things I can do? I motivate myself to exercise by saying, well, if I was going to exercise, it would take an hour and it would suck. So I'm going to do the 10-minute thing that gets me the same results as an hour. And I motivate myself by saying, I saved 50 minutes of suck with biohacking. And the body loves saving and it hates expending. That's why coupons feel so good when you get a coupon. Like they feel bigger than they are because savings feels good. So I motivate myself to improve myself by looking at how much time I save improving myself, not by how much work it is.
What is the piece of advice that you generally give to other people that you're sort of like, man, I could be a little bit better about that one?
I think about that one.
Someone asked me that question once and I was like, oh man, that's a good question. And for me, it's always drinking more water. I could be better about drinking a little more water, but that was a tough
I'm thinking about it. I just don't have a perfection thing around things. So I do lots of things imperfectly, but I don't care if they're perfect. I just care if they're good enough. So what I would say, I fly way too much and I do my best. I'll put on the True Dark glasses that control my jet lag. I don't get any jet lag, but I fly around looking like this, kind of like Cyclops.
Yeah, I like it.
Not the sexiest look, but these glasses have changed it. But sometimes when I travel, my sleep is not that good. I say don't eat 3 hours before you go to bed. And sometimes, like, I've been flying for 12 hours or something, and I know that I shouldn't eat now, but I'm going to anyway. And what the hell? I don't sweat it. And if I do something that I know isn't optimal, there's usually some sort of ninja move that you can use with biohacking that reverses it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. You've got all the tricks. I want to talk about CryoCon and your biohacking conference coming up in Austin. So Dallas and then Austin. I feel like these opportunities for people to learn about biohacking are becoming more and more popular for sure as people start to learn and optimize themselves. Give me a sense of what you'll be talking about at CryoCon and what the biohacking conference in Austin will entail for folks.
I'm going to talk about heavily meditated because there's a thing you do when you go into cryo that a lot of people don't understand. This is a new concept in the world of biohacking, and it's called BICEP, and it's brief intentional conscious exposure to pain. And when you read heavily meditated, you learn about this, that monks used to whip themselves. Yogis lay on a bed of nails. Biohackers do cold therapy. Why? It's not just for the metabolic benefits of cold therapy. It's because intentionally doing something that is painful for 1 minute a day resets your dopamine receptors so that it takes less dopamine to motivate you to do things throughout the day. It's about happiness and changing your mental state separate from the metabolic benefit. So the new idea is called BICEP, a brief intentional conscious exposure to pain. And when you come to CryoCon, I'll talk about that. And if you, on April 12th, are in Austin, you come to a day of biohacking and consciousness where Victor Chan, who co-writes books with the Dalai Lama and several other leaders in meditation, and I are going to teach you for a day about biohacking and consciousness and the brain. And then May 28th at biohackingconference.com, 4,000 people at the world's biggest and first biohacking conference in Austin. That is amazing. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say this yet, but one of the world's most famous DJs will be playing a live concert just for attendees, in addition to all the other cool biohacking stuff. It's going to be amazing.
Okay. All right. You definitely caught my attention, especially with that DJ part. Do you find that a lot of these people who come to these events, are they first timers? Are they kind of return participants, or is it just a mix of both? I was at CryoCon last year, and I felt like there was a lot of new interest in what was kind of going on, what was being offered.
About half of people are new to the biohacking conference and half return. And it's a beautiful mix of men and women, slightly more women than men. And biohacking's always been about 55% women. Because I think on average, women are better biohackers than men. They have more body awareness, probably because things change regularly. And a lot of guys, there's something happening below my neck. If it's not a broken bone, I don't really care. So this internal sense of awareness and this sense of control and just a desire to have the life you want, it's for everybody. You'll see people who are 18 years old and all in, and you'll see people who are 80 years old and all in. And even better, they're all smiling, they're all vibing, they're all talking to each other and exchanging information. And people have met and got married and starting businesses. And it's such a vibing community after 13 years. It's my favorite thing.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm just, when you said 18, I thought, gosh, what a different life I would have led had I been exposed to any of this at the age of 18. I just think, wow, I would have done the first 20 years of my career a little differently.
I would have had a very different life, and I don't regret my life. I've had toxic mold poisoning. I've had a lot of health problems, a lot of suffering, and frankly, a lot of anxiety and just doing things wrong. And gaining control of my inner state, making my biology work better, having 6% body fat without a lot of effort. I would have never dreamed as a 300-pound computer hacker that I would be on a book cover with my shirt off when the calendar thinks I'm over 50 and my body thinks I'm 35. It is so different. But the most important thing is the mental state, like getting around anxiety, understanding where it comes from, and being able to be present and grounded and focused and of service to myself and my family, my community. And man, I could have done a lot with this knowledge when I was younger.
Yeah. My mantra is for sure to be of service, right? To be of benefit to others. I think that's the purpose of life personally. And I certainly think that you are continuing, not just have done, but are continuing to do so. I mean, you're a prolific writer. You've got all this knowledge, all this wisdom, all this information. I wonder where you aim to take this. I mean, if there is further intention or a goal, or you see something bigger or a vision that, is even greater or beyond what you thought was possible.
Biohacking is a movement with tens of millions of followers in so many countries. You go to Japan, go to Korea, go to Europe, go to India, go to Dubai. It's everywhere. And it's always been about longevity. I wrote a major New York Times book on longevity. People are like, Dave, you say you want to live to at least 180. Are you crazy? I'm like, no, I'm going to do it. And it's not that I'm about not dying. It's that I'm about living as long as I choose and having an epic life the entire time. And the skill sets are different. So longevity and consciousness. So I believe biohacking is here to upgrade our society. It's a thing that says you're in charge of you, not your doctor, not your mommy, not your daddy, not your insurance company, not your employer, not your government, for God's sake. It's just you. But that there's a rich set of tools and a rich community of people to support you, and that we can do this together and we don't need a permission slip. And that part of doing that is becoming more conscious, more focused, more aware, and being incredibly hard to trigger. And so heavily meditated is the recipe for here's how to turn off your triggers so that no one else can control you, only you. That's the big thing.
Well, I will just say I appreciate your time, Dave, and for the contributions that I think you will always be remembered for. So you're living to 180, is that right? 180 years old?
At least 180. I don't want to put a cap on it.
Limitless. I love it. Well, we appreciate you, and we'll see you at CryoCon and in Austin as well, for sure.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to see you there.
And thank you all for joining us for The Shift. I'm Sonia Azad. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Today's podcast is sponsored by my good friends at CryoCon. CryoCon, powered by Next Wellness, is a 3-day live event where wellness business entrepreneurs and store and clinic owners come to master their wellness business and life. Learn about the latest cutting-edge equipment, technology, products, and strategies from globally recognized speakers and experts. Get your tickets at www.cryoconvention.com and join us April 3rd through 5th in Dallas, Texas. And don't forget about our friends at Glam House Collective. Let's get glam.